And that's great, you know. And here's the other thing, though. To get back to that tryout night, I had some friends in Ashland that I told them I was going to be trying out, you know.
Yeah.
And I had an idea that it was going to be a dark match.
Right.
But a lot of people, when I had my hair longer, and sometimes I'd be at the wires and working out, I had a funny said, you know what, man, you look like Mr. Perfect. You look like Mr. Perfect. and I never thought I did, but some people, they say that. Well, that night, I already had my match stuff. What they did, they brought in Kurt Hennig that night. And the night before that pay-per-view, he had smashed Flair's head in the cage. Well, they showed the back of Kurt Hennig, and he had Ric Flair's robe on. And from the back, and I'm by no means claiming to be a Mr. Perfect, but it looked like me. He was a lot bigger than me, of course, but everyone in Ashland was like, oh my God, we thought that was you. They thought that was me coming out. So, you know, anyway, so the place just popped, and of course when I got home, everyone was like, oh my God, we thought that was you. I thought you was taking over. I was like, no, I said, I had a dark match. I said,
Do you remember who you had the dark match with?
Yeah, I had a dark match with Louis Spagoli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure did.
Something I wanted to ask you, speaking on WCW, who was the friendliest towards you, and who offered you the best words of encouragement that you can remember?
Oh man, you know, the thing about that is there were so many guys there, and it's just like anything entertainment. You got so many wrestling draws from every walk of life. You got people that are just, you know, from lunatics to you know, to kindness people, church going people, to drug guys. I mean, it's entertainment. You got people from all over the world, so you're gonna meet different people. But you know, like when I got there, you know, Terry Taylor was extremely good to me. Paul Orndorff, some of the veterans, and that's what I like. They knew I was old school. They knew I'd worked. They knew I was trained by Malenko. They knew I was had been to the territories and actually worked. And I knew what my job was. Well, I should have said every day you didn't know what your job was. But I had an idea where they wanted to take me at. Creative did. But anyway, some of the best compliments were like Arn Anderson a couple of times. One time I had a match with Chris Benoit, who was a complete gentleman to me. I had been in Australia with him at one point. But we had a great match. And anyway, Arn comes to me and says, Bobby, you know, here's what we'd like you to do tonight, and laid it out for me. And he said, I just want you to know, he goes, there's a lot of guys here that feel this way. He goes, this to me was a great compliment. He says, Bobby says, you're one of the guys that we have here. We put you in the same category, and I'm not, you know, boasting on one. I'm usually ask me, so I'm telling you. And he says, we put you in the same category as Bobby Eaton and Brad Armstrong. And he says, you can work any style with anyone we have here. And he said, that's why you're here. And I went out and done a great job. And so you get a thrill from that. And then another time, Mark says to me, I had a match with Jerry Flynn, not Jerry Lynn, but Jerry Flynn out of Tampa. And he was a tough shooter, you know. And I'd worked with him before he was at the camp when I was at one point. And we just went out and just had a match. I mean, just old school that you'd appreciate. And Arn comes back and he says, man, he said, that was just two professionals. Thank you very much for being professional, guys. And then I was sitting in the locker room. I don't know if this necessarily tops what Arn said about me being in the same category with Brad and a Bobby, and I certainly don't look at myself that way, because those guys were great. I looked up to both of them. But I was sitting there, and I had the Armstrong brothers, who I think all of them were very talented, and I traveled with them quite a bit. And I had Scott and Steve sitting on the other side of me, Nick Patrick in front of me, and Brad standing there. And Terry Taylor walks over, and I'm lacing up my boot, and he says, Bobby, he says, you know, you got an 8-minute match coming up, and he goes, I want you to go out there and just tear it down. And I'm like, okay, you know, thank you. And he walks away. He comes back about 2 minutes later. He says, Bobby, said, that match got cut. It's going to be just a couple minutes. He said, just get in what you can get in, man. And he took a couple of steps and turned back. And I'm still with guys that I really admire. You know, I'm talking, you know, Brad, Scott, and Steve are there, and Nick Patrick's there, and almost those guys to me are very talented. And Terry turned back around to Bobby. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you're the most underused talent we have in this company. And I kind of felt bad, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, these guys here are just as talented, if not more so than me. And he says, I'm sorry. He said, that match is going to be about 3 minutes. He said, but you're the most underused piece of talent we have here. So I was like, man, and them guys, they popped for me. They was, you know, they good dudes. They didn't think bad of it at all.
Wow.
But they was like, Bobby, man, you know what, that's the office telling you, man. That's how much respect they have for you.
That's right.
So those kind of things. As far as the boys go, man, I can't think. I just talked to Barbarian last month. Barbarian and Ming, they were policemen there. Them guys.
Was that really?
Man, you don't mess with them guys. If you screw up and you're wrestling Ming, you're in for a long night. Guys like Steve Regal, you know, that guy can just tear you from one side to the other. I saw him just destroy on a house show, just destroy. Just no disrespect to Bill Goldberg. He just ate him alive for like 11 minutes and 57 seconds. Took the spear, took the pin, that was it. And Bischoff's going up to the back. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah,
What's he big? You know, Steve in his way, he's just like, you know, if he can't protect himself out there as a good champion, you know.
That was something I kind of, you mentioned the name Bill Goldberg. What did the people in the back think about that? Because, I mean, he was basically brung in, and then he's given this streak of 1,000,000 and you know, it went on forever, it seemed like.
I mean, what the number 67 in Orlando, Florida?
Right.
I actually went about 4 minutes. I actually got more into most people. I got 2 forearms in, I think.
How did they perceive that?
You know, the thing is, I remember being on a pay-per-view in Detroit, and Goldberg's in the locker room. You know, he had tried out for several NFL teams prior to working with Atlanta, but he was telling a funny story about trying out for San Diego on a 40-yard dash and just falling flat on his, right on his face. You know? So he was making her feel comfortable, like, you know, hey, I'm one of you guys kind of thing. But I'll say this, the thing about Goldberg, he started off when he came there, of course, no ego. You know, he came in with a good attitude. He wanted to learn.
Yeah.
He had actually been there for 2 years, roughly, working out at the power plant. And he had a chance to go on some shows, and he wouldn't do it. He said, you know, hey, I want, when I'm ready, I'll do it. You know, so he didn't really, and it wasn't, some people can misconceive it. Say, oh, he's too good to do it in the finish.
Right.
It wasn't that at all. It was like he knew he had a direction.
Right.
He knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to be ready, you know. Now, granted, he only went, you know, 1 minute, 3 minutes, whatever at that point.
Yeah.
But he could have went longer, but you know, he didn't want to. He wanted to make sure he was ready when they debuted him. And no one knew what was going to happen when he come out here. But he started off very modest things, and you know, there at the end, you know, you get an agent, you start getting a TV show, you know, it's things like that. So of course, obviously, you start getting away from, you know. But for example, the night I wrestled, you know, I was in Orlando, Florida, and I had talked to Arn Anderson, and basically, you know, they said, well, don't take him off his feet and this and that. And I'd already taken him off his feet, and that's not but I knew how to wrestle, you know.
Right.
And we had went out and worked out, and Arn walked by and he said, Bill, you know, don't let Bobby, don't, you know better than that. He goes, you can't do that to him, you know. And it wasn't because he let me.
Right.
Or, excuse me, rather, I need to track. It wasn't because he didn't let me. It's because he let me actually take him down. But again, I'm number 67 and a lot of many use it.
That's right.
But anyway, right before we go out there, you know, I'm standing at the curtain. Of course, I'm gonna go out first, and Bill's like, "Hey, Bobby, thank you very much." And I'm like, "Man, thank you." You know, he goes, "No," he goes, "Seriously." He goes, "I get it." He said, "If it wasn't for guys like you," he said, "the bosses love me." He said, "If it wasn't for guys like you, I wouldn't be getting a push on you. So thank you."
Really? That's good to hear.
Oh, absolutely. And Jack, what's funny was, he speared me out of my boots, as Nick Patrick said. He was in the middle. He said, "I think your head was in the turnbuckle, your boots were still out here in the middle." But he jackhammered me, and when he jackhammered me, you know, I had the long hair, and I felt my hair brush the mat. It was that close, and if I'd have hit here, it broke my neck. But it snapped at the last second, and, you know, he's got a 300-pound guy to, you know, come down on me for the pin. Terry Taylor was waiting for me as soon as I come back through the curtain, and the first thing I was, "Hey, are you all right? Did he take care of you?" And you know, that's what people don't understand about the rest of it is you got to work together.
You do.
know? And so Terry was concerned, one, about my work, that I was taking care of my health, but two, he wanted to make sure this guy that pushing, he's not hurting someone, you know. Did he take care of it? How was it? Did he listen to this guy? And I, you know, of course, I gave thumbs up, you know. So it's very professional. Right. Bill and Terry both to coordinate that. Yeah.
I've seen. I think everybody's watching, you know, Goldberg's Spear. You see some people take it a whole lot better than others. You know, some are flopping, you know, because they know it's coming, you know, and you don't actually see them elevate, you know, and you see a lot of people take it, you know, a whole lot different than others. But another thing I wanted to talk about is, like, I think my favorite time in WCW, and I don't even know if you have any input on this or not, but I mean, of course, I like the NWO, but when Chris Jericho came out with Ralphus,
Yeah.
I think that was a great storyline, and whenever he was looking out in the stands, like, we don't let to touch him, and that's just great classic stuff. How about Chris Jericho? Anything?
Oh yeah, well Chris came into Smoky Mountain Wrestling back when I was there. They come in as a thrill seekers, him and Lance Storm. And they came in, they was very talented. Been to Mexico and been to Japan, so they could always do work,
Yeah.
And Jericho, very charismatic, and very talented, and the Ralphus thing. Sometimes when life imitates, art imitates life. So it's like Ralphus was just a guy sitting there ring up and hang out in the back, and he'd be around and stuff, and they just went with it. It's one of the things, and a great funny Ralphus story, real quickly, just tell you the kind of guy it was. You can see how easy it was to get someone like that.
Yeah.
He's back there, and I'm getting ready to go out for TV on a Tuesday night to a taping. And what's funny is he's standing there. Well, he don't have the shirt. He's just standing there. He's not on the table at this time. We already done Nitro the night before. He's standing there. He's just standing in the back, and someone's smoking a cigarette. And we're all just kind of standing with this guy. And I can't remember actually who had the cigarette. But anyway, he's smoking a cigarette. One of the wrestlers, who I won't name, he comes by and he's all psyched up and he's voided out and he's no longer around. I'll say that as far as the wrestling business, because he was a complete idiot anyway. And this will kind of give you, that's why I won't mention his name. You wouldn't know him if I told you anyway. But anyway, he comes by and he goes, "Hey, give me that." And he hits that cigarette about 3 or 4 times. And he goes, "Oh, don't try that at home." And Ralph is "Don't miss a beat." And we're all just standing there watching this guy. And Ralph goes, "Try it at home? Hell, I wouldn't try that anywhere." And so it was just a normal guy. And it's true. I mean, who the hell would do that?
That's right. Bob, DJ, through my whole life, he's been the biggest WCW fan that I've ever met. I mean, ever come across. And I've come across a lot of people. Is there anything in particular that you think of like that, Bob?
First, I'd like to ask you, Shawn Michaels had Ric Flair, who he idolized to get the business, and Mick Foley had Jimmy Snuka. We all hear the story about how he hitchhiked up the 6 Did you have anyone that you idolized?
Oh man, I don't know that I idolized because I liked a lot of guys and liked a lot of wrestling. I just liked wrestling, but the guys that I set the standard and guys that I really looked up to. Number one, and my all-time favorite is Terry Funk. So I'll say favorites. Right. But Terry Funk to me was like the best heel. He would do whatever it took to match, put on a performance that he made you believe. He made you believe. And so I liked Terry Funk. I liked his style a whole lot. A complete opposite style, who's one of the greatest ever, Ric Flair, obviously, but I put my style after guys like Terry Funk, Dickie Slater, Bob Orton Jr. So I learned to work that, and then Terry Gordy. Terry Gordy to me was one of the best big men. And so, but probably Terry Funk's my favorite. That's who I try to emulate a lot. My very first territory, I worked with a guy by the name of Leo Burke, and when Terry Funk became the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Back then they had a board, and Leo's name was actually drawn that he was possibly going to be one of the NWA champions. And I actually had to got the privilege of working with Leo in my first territory. Well, he'd been trained by the Funks and worked with them back in the Amarillo, Texas area, and then the Funks would go up there in the winter in Canada, in summertime rather, when they ran. So they'd change talent. You needed to go to Florida or Texas or Canada. They did it. So Leo was a young boy, very impressionable. When I say young boy, I'm talking young boy to wrestling. I'm not sure young boy. So Funk was a guy already, established a little bit when Leo was there, and so he had a lot of style that Funk had. So when I actually got around Leo and I worked with him several nights a week, you're like, you realize, this is the kind of style I like. It's methodical. But yeah, I'd say that. And then as far as work rate. I saw a lot of Japan tapes when I was at Malenko, so I tried to learn that away, like the Malenko brothers versus the Bulldogs, that was like match of the year back in like 1989 or something. But you try to work your craftsmanship, you learn to work. And I was in Australia, and they had like Jake Roberts in there, and JYD, and Don Morocco. It was all arranged in this big battle royal. And some Australian guys and Benoit and Jushin Liger was there. So just talent out you know, all over.
There's